Okay, class, settle down. Today we're going to be talking about Fortify, which is a stat that is used by the Barbarian, Druid, and Necromancer classes as a defensive tool to reduce incoming damage. That means that all rogues or sorks don't need to sit through this class if they don't want to. Oh, sweet! Snack time! As I was saying, Fortify works together with your life to reduce the incoming damage that you receive from enemies. You can keep track of how much Fortify you have by keeping an eye on your life globe. Fortify looks like an extra layer of red on your life globe, but it is not extra life. Instead, the life that is equal to or below your Fortify value takes less damage with a default value of 10% less damage. So you can imagine that this covered life is thicker or stronger than your normal uncovered life. You can increase the amount of damage reduction that Fortify grants with a few sources, but most notably with sapphire gems and armor. Also note that your maximum Fortify value is equal to your maximum life. You cannot have more fortified than you have maximum life. When your life is equal to or less than your Fortify value, you are considered fortified, and your life globe is surrounded by this extra shield outside of it. There are several items, passives, and paragon nodes that only take effect while you are fortified. This can be somewhat difficult to maintain since taking damage can deplete your fortify, but we'll get into that in a bit. You can still benefit from Fortify's damage reduction if you have more life than Fortify value, but only for the portion of the hit that would drop you below your Fortify value. For example, if you had 1,000 life and 500 Fortify, and then got hit for 600 damage, you would end up at 410 life. You would lose the first 500 points of life without being affected by Fortify's damage reduction. However, the remaining 100 damage that would push you below 500 life would be reduced since this portion is below your Fortify value. Professor, this sounds like a lot of work, but we still get hurt just as much. Why do we even bother with Fortify? Yes, good question. You see, Fortify only starts off as a measly 10% damage reduction, but you can raise it quite higher by using gems in your armor. If you attend my Gems 101 class, you can find out the different gems that you can use in your gear. There are also paragon points that will provide increased damage and damage reduction while fortified, and maybe even more. It's likely that you'll be able to have more than 50% damage reduction from Fortify alone, although there may be diminishing returns in endgame. In order to gain Fortify value, there are a few different ways. Some skills have supporting nodes that provide Fortify functionality. For example, Druid's skill, Earthen Bulwark, has the node Preserving Earthen Bulwark, which grants you 18% of your basic life as Fortify when you cast Earthen Bulwark. This means that if you had 1,000 life, you would gain 180 Fortify value when casting Earthen Bulwark. Besides percentage sources of Fortify, there are flat sources of Fortify such as the Barbarian's Aspect of Numbing Wrath, a legendary power that causes each point of fury generated will at maximum fury to also grant somewhere between 1.5 and 3 Fortify, depending on the legendary's value. These two types of sources work together, and you will likely want to utilize several sources of Fortify to keep your Fortify value as high as possible, because it is possible to lose Fortify value both in combat and when you are out of combat. When you are hit by an attack that causes you to lose Fortified life, you will lose exactly as much Fortify value as you did life below your Fortify value. For example, if you have 1,000 life and Fortify and are hit for 600 damage, you would end up with both 460 life and Fortify, thanks to the baseline 10% damage reduction. Since you'll be constantly losing life and regaining it in endgame content, it is important that you have a smooth and consistent source of Fortify if you intend to rely on it for damage mitigation. If your sources of healing and regeneration outpace your Fortify generation, then it is likely that you will not benefit from Fortify's damage reduction as much as you could. Fortify can also decay rather quickly if you drop out of combat. After 5 seconds out of combat, your Fortify value will rapidly deplete unless you gain more Fortify from some source, which will delay this decay by another 5 seconds. This is mostly applicable for combat in the open world, but note that it can be difficult to start an encounter or even a dungeon with a lot of Fortify value due to this decay. Be extra careful before traveling to a boss since your Fortify value is likely to decay during any travel time. Lastly, Fortify value plays a major part in how overpowered damage is calculated, but I will cover that in its own specific overpower class, but know that more Fortify means more overpowered damage. Hope that this lesson helped to enlighten you on the Fortify mechanic. If you want to learn more about the systems of Diablo IV, subscribe or check out the mechanics playlist. If you have any feedback, please leave me a note in the comments below. Thank you very much and see you in Sanctuary.